Hi, I'm Carmen,
And I'm Steven, and this is Vienna Past and Present.
where we walk through the gilded and sometimes not so gilded halls of Vienna's history.
So, as it's Pride Month and there's a world-famous queer Austrian anniversary upon us, today we're talking about Conchita Wurst 10 years later. Carmen, how are you celebrating? Do you remember where you were when she won?
How am I celebrating? Well, I did not manage to go to Pride this year, so there was the Pride Parade this past weekend, which I didn't manage to go to, so I don't think I'm celebrating very well. But I did watch Eurovision this year, so I don't know if that counts.
Okay, I know you, and I know that's a huge step for you, so, okay, thank you for that effort.
True. I was also kind of banned from watching Eurovision for a while because I didn't take it seriously enough for some of my friends. So I've only, been let back in recently. But aside from that, haven't really celebrated too much. But I do remember where I was when she won, which was with you in Turkey, of all places, on vacation. In Istanbul,
yes.
I think we were on the night of the final.
Yeah, okay, I vaguely remember that, and maybe in that intro it sounded like I was very serious about Eurovision. I'm really not at all, so I do remember Turkey. I kind of vaguely remember that. It wouldn't really have been on my radar, but...
We talked about it, I remember that, because I was living in Austria already, and, Austria doesn't really make it into the international news all that often, and I think we were staying in this hotel in Istanbul that I just remember that there were cats Istanbul has stray cats everywhere, but this hotel had a bunch of cats in it, and it smelled a lot like cat piss.
It smelled like cat. I do remember sitting somewhere, and they're like, oh, hey, no, there was a recent accident, like, right there on that pillow.
On the couch that we were sitting on.
Okay, but think about it, like, that was probably the most memorable accommodation that whole time, right? I mean, they were super nice.
I remember it. It was called Hotel Turquoise.
Yeah.
Like, I remember that place.
Was that the one where they put the hats on us for that?
Yes, I think so.
I think so, yeah.
Traditional hats, yeah.
Yes. Anyway, Conchita. So yeah, I definitely remember it. Don't get me wrong. I just don't remember it like placed there. But yeah, I do remember. Oh, who is this bearded drag queen? Like, wow. It was definitely remarkable. So yeah.
Yeah, I actually didn't know that it was 10 years ago. Only when you told me in preparation for this episode did I realize that it is the 10-year anniversary, so it's a timely one.
Very. So we are celebrating here with a little retrospective. Conchita has been well covered, and we'll try not to rehash Wikipedia on this show, of course, but I did some digging, some reading, some YouTube watching, and here are some facts that I found interesting. As far as her origin story, Conchita Wurst is known as Thomas Neuwirth.
Excellent pronunciation.
Kind of looks like Neuwirth.
Well done.
Okay, thanks. I was a little wobbly at the end, but I felt like I kind of stuck it. So.
But your natural inclination would have been what in English?
Neuwirth. Okay, and I think I said that. Again, it just is like it looks close enough to a name that I would see like in the U.S. or somewhere that you just kind of like go with it and don't think about it. But it does have a Neuwirth kind of look. Okay, so if you haven't seen how it's spelled. Anyway, he uses he/him pronouns out of drag, so we're gonna kind of switch the pronouns up this entire episode. He was born in Upper Austria, raised outside of Vienna. And he faced a lot of bullying for his identity when he was younger in smaller towns and in the countryside where he lived. And that theme kind of pops up for him, it seems like, in a lot of what I read from his own accounts. So her persona Conchita started when she hosted a drag brunch, but realized she'd have to shave to do it. She didn't like how she looked without a beard, so she asked if she could just keep the beard. And thankfully that bar manager, I guess, just said yes. So we kind of have that chill bar manager to thank for all of this, at least in part. So thank you to whoever that is.
Ahead of the game.
Yeah. So now we're just going to fast forward to Eurovision. Spoiler alert, she won for her year. Sorry for ruining that if you have any recording you haven't gotten to yet. Maybe you're watching in order. But yeah.
If you're 10 years behind on Eurovision, you have some serious catching up to do. Well, to be fair, I'm at least 10 years out of date, except for the one random one that I watched this year. So, okay, I'll add myself to that crowd.
I know that's big for you. Okay, so congratulations. So here's some perhaps lesser known, perhaps forgotten things I found. She originally started recording a different song for Eurovision. Her management team told her to listen to all of these that they provided, decide first, but she just went ahead with a different song for a while. Then when she finally listened to Rise Like a Phoenix, she asked them to start everything over with that song. So that was kind of part of her story. She's like, oh my gosh, yeah, I had them just start over, and I was just so taken by this song.
And that is the one that she then competed with and won with, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. It was all over the radio here for a while. Did it get any airplay in the US that you recall? Do you know the song, actually?
I don't think so. I know it just because I think I saw the videos years ago, right? Where I was like, oh, who is this, bearded drag queen? Like, what is this like? But I don't think it was on the radio here. I do think there are a couple Eurovision songs that make it to the radio, kind of like dance radio almost. But yeah, that's kind of my wild guess.
Okay, in Austria they played it quite a bit, and I think you still hear it sometimes even. It's one of those songs that's just around.
All right. When she won, I think she was the most visible bearded drag queen at that time. I feel almost qualified to say this. I'm not really a super fan of drag and Drag Race, but I'm definitely a fan. I remember thinking it was funny and quote, out there at the time when I saw a bearded drag queen performing. But now it's much more mainstream, and that fact is very striking to me. I think she moved the needle for me, and probably for a lot of people, like whatever that needle is, but she still moved it. Another one that comes to mind, just an aside here, another one that comes to mind that came before Conchita in my own experience was a local Seattle performer called Waxy Moon. She is worth looking up if you want more OG bearded drag queen material. She's kind of like a comedy queen, so she's good too.
Nice, I should look her up. Waxy Moon, I like it already.
Yeah, it's a good name. Anyway, Conchita, not surprisingly, faced a lot of backlash at the time. This was 2014. Some from within Austria. Carmen, do you remember anything, or did you find anything about that?
Yeah, I looked into that a little bit. I was trying to think of what I remembered at the time, and it's 10 years ago, so I don't remember all that well. I think there were sort of mixed reactions in a lot of ways. People were excited. It made the news. It was splashy and different and all of that, but at the same time, there was a bit of a backlash, I think, too, and some divided opinion over, or is this the image that we want for Austria at this, at an event that does have a lot of eyes on it, because Eurovision, as much as most Americans don't even know what it is, it's huge in Europe. I mean, everybody at least knows what it is, and I don't know how many millions of people watch it, but it is a very, very popular thing. And I do remember there being some, especially I think from the right-wing political spectrum, this kind of pearl clutching about what are we sending to Europe? How are we representing ourselves? This is not really what we want. And when I looked it up, I did find some newspaper articles and things about a petition that was started to petition to not send her to Eurovision because people thought that it was, not the image that they wanted to present. So there were some things like that. But on the whole, my recollection, at least in my circle of friends, but obviously that's not very representative. I mean, people were very excited about it. It was different. It was cool. It was interesting. A lot of people really liked the song because she can sing pretty well, and the song is, I think, not bad. And people, I would say in Vienna, my feeling was that people were very supportive and were excited that there was some chance that Vienna or that Austria actually could win.
Yeah, I mean, things like this, there's probably always opportunist, people, right, to, even in 2014, right, like the culture war idea was kind of happening everywhere. I mean, all this is very believable.
Yeah. In general, I think it was overwhelmingly supportive or indifferent. A lot of people just really didn't care. There was, I think, probably a pretty vocal minority that was somehow up in arms and, associating it with the culture wars and all of that. But my recollection was that most people either didn't care very much or were excited that it was noteworthy.
Okay. There was also a lot of backlash from Russia, which I think is kind of interesting now. Russia even floated the idea of making a morally pure Eurovision alternative that year. And this is a big cultural wedge issue that Russia uses today still, right? Like maybe Conchita's win was one of the early tests of this. I'm not a political scientist, but I kind of wonder that. There's a conservative Russian lawmaker, Vitaly Milanov. He called the win an insult to the whole of Europe, and he argued that Eurovision had become a hotbed of sodomy, in quotes. So they really were going for it.
That's quite a reaction. I mean, It really makes you wonder what he thought Eurovision was before, because, I mean, did he think this was the church choir?
That's right.
It's always been this, sparkly gay extravaganza.
Yeah, he had just heard of it, clearly. But on the other hand, this also brought international attention to the anti-LGBT atmosphere and legislation that was happening in Russia at the time. I don't think it was just starting, but it was definitely, heating up. And maybe this wasn't the first time that attention was brought, but I think it was brought in a big way when Conchita won and this, these conversations started happening.
Yeah, I have some vague recollections of that, I think. Very vague, very long time ago at this stage. But yeah, there was like the whole Pussy Riot thing going on in Russia. Was that around that time, maybe? And there was this period of time.
They were definitely active then. Yeah, I think they're like a 2012 thing, I want to say. But
which would be around this time, yeah. So maybe it all kind of dovetailed together.
Yeah, anyway. But she won, and I don't want to make it all about kind of like, sad things. But yeah, she won. It was great. And I think she won by a huge margin, Eurovision, right? Like,
I think it was a very clear win, yeah. She was very popular. She got... Because the way Eurovision works... Well, okay, now I'm trying to be a Eurovision expert, which is not great because I don't know what I'm talking about. But the basics
no attacks in DMs, please, for our, 10 listeners.
Yeah, I'm really going out on a limb here. But no, there is a jury vote and there's a public vote, right? So, like, people can text in and vote, and that's somehow half of the score that you can get. And the other score is that every country has this jury, and the jury from each country gives points to whichever country, and so you can give 12 points maximum. And actually, I'm not sure if she won both the popular vote and the jury vote, but I think she won by a pretty large margin. Like, it was not contested in any way. I mean, it was she won.
Okay. So let's bring it to the present and what she's doing today. She is still performing and making music. She performed at Vienna Pride just a few days ago, before this recording at least, in June of 2024. You can see those pictures on her Instagram. There's a huge crowd too.
Yeah, if I had gone to Pride last weekend, I might have seen her, but I didn't make it.
You need to still get that interview, okay, that I just told you about right now. Okay, so you get to work on that. She has a pretty huge social media following, more than 400,000 at the time of this recording on Instagram alone. Her music videos have been viewed millions of times. She now has a channel called Wurst TV, where fans can subscribe and see all sorts of things, like videos from her photo shoot, behind the scenes stuff, getting ready with her, makeup tutorials, even fitness routines and yoga that she does. So if you wanted a very Conchita-centric digital life, that is an option, okay? More power to her.
Wurst TV, I have to say I love the name. And I checked out the website, and there's a lot of content on there. I mean, she is
a shocking
busy.
amount.
A shocking amount.
Yeah.
Of course, it's subscriber-based, so I think if you want the real content, you have to sign up, but there's a 14-day free trial.
There's a free trial.
So lots of content there to check out. But she is making it work, I think. It's kind of hilarious, I have to say, the website.
Yeah, and if you're a subscriber, actually, I would love to hear from you. And I'm curious just like how you use it. Is it like thrice a day? Is it just kind of like you check in once a week and binge? Curious about Wurst TV.
Are you doing your morning fitness routine with her?
Because you could. These are real questions.
You really could.
Okay. I think it's cool. Otherwise, my sense is that Conchita now has a more gender fluid kind of persona in her performances. He performs as Tom too, it looks like. I think you could describe some of the looks as like daring fashion instead of just drag looks. So to me, that's cool, and that's kind of an evolution, and like, artists, I feel like real artists change over time, right? Like, you're trying new mediums, you keep looking for what inspires you right now. So that's very cool to see.
Yeah, my sense is also, although I don't know this, or I don't know where I would really know this from, but somehow I just have this sense that, after she won Eurovision, he, Tom, then, well, of course, kind of did the media rounds and whatever for a while, but I think there was a period where he did a little bit less as Conchita and really performed as himself.
Okay.
And then now I think he's kind of coming back to the Conchita persona a little bit. So it's sometimes he's Tom, sometimes he's Conchita, and he sort of has both of those personas.
Yeah, I like that a lot, actually. He still seems to honor his work and his performances as Conchita.
Yeah.
Sometimes artists are like, okay, that was before, I'm this new thing, like I do not want to sing those songs anymore or something. But he hasn't tried that kind of hard change of persona. He's not leaving it all behind. I saw a recent video where he was listening to covers of Rise Like a Phoenix, and he was really positive about them, right? They were really great covers too, like kind of these like pop jazz covers, surprising ones. So maybe we can link to that.
Oh yeah, that's cool. And to your point about honoring that persona and the work as Conchita, she did perform this year at Eurovision because there was this sort of tribute thing at the end for previous winners. And there were 3 of them. And of course, I don't know who the other 2 were because my Eurovision knowledge is very limited, which was unappreciated by the people that I was watching it with because they're super fans.
Hey, you know what? That's like me at Super Bowl parties, okay? I'll tune in for like the last 4 games, but I'm not, all the drama before that. I'm not going to like every Monday night forever. No. So yeah, I get it.
Yeah, I mean,
anyway.
Super Bowl I never really watched either, except for the game itself, and then mostly also didn't pay very much attention.
Yeah.
So yeah, actually Eurovision is like Super Bowl for some people around here. It's a party, it's a thing, and you know, it's not just Eurovision. Well, Eurovision is a couple of different nights, right? There's like semifinals where people get eliminated, and then you have the final, and you know, these people watch all of it and expect you by the final to know what's going on, which I never do. But in any case, Conchita performed this year, and so she's still around and, you know, hasn't distanced herself from this or anything, you know, is still doing performances and showing up at Eurovision every now and then.
Did she appear as Conchita in this, like, retrospective that you saw, like, in Conchita drag, or more like Tom kind of presentation?
At Eurovision this year?
Yeah.
As Conchita. She performed Rise Like a Phoenix.
Okay, cool.
It was together with 2 other people. They did this medley of winning songs, basically. And so I think I guess the other songs that they sang were probably from the other 2 winners, but I, you know, didn't recognize them.
Okay, that's
cool. And then they sang Rise Like a Phoenix. And yeah, she was dressed as Conchita, you know, had the whole persona. It was what you would expect.
Okay, awesome. So, legacy. I mean, we're sort of, you know, talking a little about that already. Looking back at her interviews that she did at the time, like on morning TV and places like that, she answered a lot of gender and drag questions that a performer today probably wouldn't receive even. So to me, I think she was a more prominent voice from that time that, you know, moved this art form forward, maybe our popular consciousness and understanding of gender expression forward. Even if that's a small step, that's more visibility, which I think is, you know, they always say that's a really important component of all of this and kind of, you know, how we change culture to be a little more open and, you know, progressive and things like that.
Yeah, that's a good point. I guess it really did move things forward because today I don't think anybody would really be shocked by a bearded drag queen or a bearded woman, but I was kind of out there and shocking 10 years ago, and now I think it would be a bit, you know, it would just be less remarkable, I suppose, because the culture has changed and it's a little bit just more generally in the ether and in the zeitgeist, and you have more prominent people, and you have gender fluidity, which didn't really exist at the time either, right? That term,
or I didn't know it, or I didn't notice it, or all of those things.
I mean, not to say that it didn't exist as a thing, but I think, you know, the discussion wasn't really there in the way that it is today. And one thing that it makes me think of is the Boylesque Festival, which is a festival that happened here in Vienna for years, and I went almost every year. Conchita was sort of behind the scenes, and so it was a burlesque festival, but only with male performers. Some of them were also dressed as females. Most of them, though, had male personas, and it was unusual, I guess, in that sense, because most burlesque shows are women, and this was pretty exclusively male. And that was organized by Jacques Patriac, who is quite well known, I think, in Vienna as well as one of these performers. And Jacques Patriac was Conchita Wurst's boyfriend. And I say Conchita Wurst because it was not, as far as I understood it, I don't think he and Tom were actually together. It was sort of, they were good friends. And then Jacques Patriac was the drag persona of, I don't actually know what this guy's real name is. And then Conchita was the drag persona of Tom Neuwirth. And then those 2 personas had a relationship, like a sort of media relationship, I think. So it was a really interesting constellation.
Oh my gosh, okay. So a lot of layers of performance art potentially maybe happening here. I remember you talking about the Boylesque Festival, and it did sound like pretty fun and like something I would want to go to at some point.
Boylesque was the best, and I completely forgot about it until we were doing this episode. And then I looked it up to check the website, and I got super excited because the website is up and there's images and there's, buy your tickets and whatever. And then I realized that it's from 2021. And I was like, oh, I guess it doesn't really exist anymore. So that was then very disappointing, but it was always a great show. And had some pretty big names, actually, too. There was always this after show, and Bianca Del Rio was there once, and Shangela, and they were just hanging around with people at this club. They didn't perform during the show itself. They were just there then at the after party. But it was happening for a while. And yeah, sadly, I guess I think it kind of ended with COVID, and it looks like it hasn't been revived, unfortunately.
Okay. All right. So for people who don't know those names, those are big American Drag Race performers. Yeah, I'm sorry to hear that it may not be going on, but who knows? I mean, maybe it's more exclusive now, Carmen. You just have to search. It's like one of these secret things, or, maybe...
I'm uninvited, you think? Okay, well, I gotta get myself in
no,
there.
I think... I was going to say, maybe Conchita may hear this, okay?
Maybe you gotta be a Wurst TV subscriber.
Oh, maybe? Oh my gosh, yeah.
Maybe that's where we've gone wrong.
14-day trial. Oh, and one other important thing, she changed Vienna in another, I think, kind of, well, I don't know, cute, cool way.
Yes, you're right. In an enduring way as well. She did not directly change it, but I think she indirectly changed was that in the year after she won, so Eurovision always works this way, that whatever country wins then hosts the next year's Eurovision. Right? So Conchita won in 2014, and so then in 2015, Austria hosted Eurovision, and it was held here in Vienna at the Stadthalle, one of the big concert venues. And in honor of that, and in anticipation of that, the city decided to put up new street signs, like crosswalk signs, right? Like normally where you'd have like a man standing or a man walking to indicate, stop or walk. They replaced those with either two men holding hands, two women holding hands, or a man and a woman holding hands, so couples. And they were so popular that they ended up keeping them. They were intended to just be temporary as sort of a love is love Eurovision, marketing thing, I think, more or less. And then people really like them. And so they exist until this very day. So if you're in especially the area where that concert happened, the Stadthalle, or in the inner city as well, a lot of the crosswalks will have couples as like the little crosswalk people, and it's really cute. It's nice. I don't even really notice it anymore, but I remember when they put them up, it was really nice to see, and yeah, obviously a hit. And I think there wasn't much debate about that, or at least not enough that they, decided to keep them temporary. They kept them up. They're still there, and it is a bit of a unique thing. I don't know that any other city has crosswalk signs like that.
Yeah, that's cool. And I think it kind of is representative maybe of the impacts that she had, right? It's like there may be kind of slight, maybe you don't notice, you kind of have to think about it, but they're surprisingly far-reaching.
Yeah.
And enduring, like you said.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I am still impressed by Tom and Conchita, maybe even thankful.
Unless you were around at that time, I guess you wouldn't necessarily know that these crosswalks have anything to do with Conchita Wurst. And especially right now, you might just assume, because it's June, it's Pride, that they were put up specifically for that. But no, it really was a response to Conchita Wurst winning Eurovision, and they've just remained since then.
Okay, well, she has certainly left her mark.
Left a mark in many ways, yeah. So very impressive, and
Yeah, okay. Happy 10-year anniversary to Conchita.
Happy 10-year anniversary, indeed. And happy Pride.
Yeah, to you and everyone listening.
So that's it for our show. Thanks, everyone, for listening. And if you liked what you heard, share it with your friends or leave us a 5-star review. And if you didn't like it, then, well, you don't have to worry about that review.
Right. You can find us on social medias, Vienna Past and Prez on Instagram, or send us your episode ideas at viennapastandpresent@gmail.com.
Auf Wiedersehen, pfiat euch, Baba.
Bye.
Oh, wait, I'm starting.
It's you. Yeah, I was like, okay.
Okay.
Let's make some changes.
Or maybe I should learn how to read. Okay.